Welcome to the Juvenile Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program Performance Measures Training. Today we're going to talk about understanding your program data, how to prepare, how to collect, how to track, and how to report on program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process, and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be related to time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the Juvenile Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program is operating on the ground. To make this session as interactive as possible, please use the WebEx chat to respond to any questions that you see on the screen. So, for example, this question on your screen here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and reporting on data. So we're going to give you a minute just to type your response into the chat, and we'd like for you to answer this question. What is your biggest issue with collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data? Catherine is posting limited technology to support efforts for data collection and tracking. Jeannie is posting questions exist with how to collect data from multiple treatment providers with separate electronic record systems. Thank you, everyone. The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information will be presented. Lastly, we will review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and provided to you in your copy of the presentation that will be emailed to you later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measure updates are for your program and understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data that you collect between July 2021 and December 2021, reporting in January 2022. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates. Now, as you already know, those happen twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. Lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. Now, in the showcase sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting in January 2022 on these newly revised program measures. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will go through the performance measures with you. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. In the Intervention Division, we have several programs. The program that we are talking about today is the Juvenile Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program as part of the Intervention Division. Up to 70% of justice-involved youth have at least one diagnosable mental health or substance use condition, with nearly 2/3 experiencing multiple conditions. As a result, the United States Congress authorized the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program through the Mentally Ill Offender Treatment and Crime Reduction Act in 2004. Since then, Congress passed the Mentally Ill Offender Treatment and Crime Reduction Reauthorization and Improvement Act of 2008 and 21st Century Cures Act in 2016, which dealt with reducing and treating mental health and substance use conditions in justice-involved youth. The desired result of the Juvenile Justice and Mental Health Collaborative Program is that juvenile justice system involved youth with a mental illness or co-occurring mental illness and substance use disorder do not recidivate and experience positive behavioral health outcomes through cross-system collaboration between the juvenile justice and behavioral health systems. OJJDP plans to achieve this result by implementing a cross-system collaborative approach to respond to justice-involved youth with a mental illness or co-occurring mental illness and substance abuse disorder, and by ensuring juvenile justice-involved youth with a mental illness or co-occurring mental illness and substance abuse disorder live productive, law-abiding lives with positive behavioral health outcomes. Let's remind ourselves of the performance measures process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in the Juvenile Justice Mental Health Collaboration Program. As you review these with me, please note that some of these are the newly revised performance measures, but you will recognize some of them since not all of them were changed. The Juvenile Justice Mental Health Collaboration Program requires coalitions between juvenile justice and behavioral health systems by funding system improvement efforts to identify youth with a behavioral health issue involved in the juvenile justice system and providing the youth with behavioral health treatment and coordinated services. This program also trains all court personnel, including officers, juvenile justice, mental health, and substance abuse agencies to better respond to youth with mental illness or co-occurring mental illness and substance abuse disorders. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are the result of activities such as trainings or meetings. Outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way that you collect data, and that is why we are here today, to ensure that you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 period come January 30th, 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. OJJDP does understand that data collection will begin in just a few days and that organizations and agencies and subawards will need time to review, process, and create a data collection plan for select performance measures, and that some indicators will be easier than others. We encourage you to work with your partners and TTA providers on a data collection plan. The performance measures document the progress you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measures outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can also find your program's performance measures online at ojjdp.ojp.gov. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In the overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of populations. 1, shared targeted populations, such as children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth. 2, those with a similar service delivery model, such as mental health services or prevention services. And 3, those with shared outcomes, such as youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. Now we're going to review some measures that are specific to juvenile justice and mental health collaboration. Percentage of eligible individuals served by an evidence-based program or practice. A program or practice is defined as evidence-based if up to 3 rigorous outcome evaluations demonstrated its effectiveness by measuring the relationship between the program and its intended outcomes and has the ability to replicate and scale when implemented with fidelity. A rigorous outcome evaluation utilizes an experimental or quasi-experimental design. This performance measure is calculated by using the number of individuals served by an evidence-based program and by the name and source of the evidence-based program. Number of training events held. We define trainings as in-person or virtual teaching and learning activities, including planning, curriculum development, and delivery, aimed to help individuals apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization. Training events are planned activities that are delivered to help individuals apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization. Training events include both train the trainer and training of individuals. Training requests are any formal or informal inquiries for learning activities, curriculum development, and delivery for a group of individuals or organizations. For this measure, you will first provide the number of training requests received and then the number of training events held. Number of individuals trained. We define individuals trained as individuals who attended a training event. For this measure, you will first provide the number of individuals trained and then the population trained. Percentage of training participants who reported they applied training knowledge or skills within 3 months of attending a training. The measure is defined as the number of individuals who reported they used the knowledge or skills learned at a training event within 3 months of attending the training as determined by a post-training survey. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who reported they used the knowledge or skills learned at a training event within 3 months of attending the training as determined by a post-survey. Percentage of eligible individuals who completed their intended service requirements. Service requirements are the actions, behavior changes, and/or outcomes an individual is expected to achieve as defined by the program model and an individual's risk level. For example, a diversion program may last 1 month and a family therapeutic program may last 9 months. Count individuals who exited a service on any day between the first and last days of the activity period. Exit early means an individual exited the services before the intended time. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who exited the service during the activity period, number of individuals who exited the service on time and who completed the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service early and who completed the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service after the intended time and who completed the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service on time and who did not complete the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service early and did not complete the service's requirements, and the number of individuals who exited the service after the intended time and who did not complete the service's requirements. Percentage of eligible individuals who completed their required court conditions. For this measure, you will provide the number of individuals assigned a court order or condition, then the number of individuals who completed their assigned court order or condition. To calculate this measure, you'll divide the number of individuals who completed their assigned court conditions by the number of individuals assigned court conditions. Percentage of eligible individuals who exhibited improved self-esteem. Self-esteem is perceiving oneself as worthy of esteem or respect. Examples of self-esteem and positive identity include having a sense of purpose, a positive view of personal future, and a perception of personal power, which is an individual's feeling that they have control over things that happen to them. The simplest evaluation design is pre- and post-test, defined as a before and after assessment to measure whether the expected changes took place in the participants in the program. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who received services to improve self-esteem and the number of eligible individuals who exhibited an improvement in self-esteem. Percentage of individuals with improved parent and caregiver relationships. We define improved caregiver-parent relationships as increased positive interactions between a child and their caregiver or parent. For this measure, you will provide the number of individuals who receive services to improve parent or caregiver relationships. Then, the number of eligible individuals who exhibited improved parent or caregiver relationships. The percentage of eligible individuals with improved parent or caregiver relationships is calculated by dividing B, the number of eligible individuals who exhibited improved parent or caregiver relationships, by A, the number of individuals who exhibited services or who received services to improve parent or caregiver relationships. Percentage of eligible individuals who participated in positive leisure or recreational activities. Leisure or recreational activities are structured or unstructured activities that an individual chooses to refresh their mind and body. For this measure, you will provide the number of individuals who receive services to promote participation in positive leisure or recreational activities. Then the number of eligible individuals who participated in positive leisure or recreational activities. The percentage of eligible individuals who participated in positive leisure or recreational activities is calculated using the number of individuals who receive services to promote participation in positive or leisure recreational activities and the number of eligible individuals who participated in positive leisure or recreational activities. Percentage of eligible individuals served by a multidisciplinary team. We define a multidisciplinary team as two or more individuals from different disciplines who work collectively to accomplish a shared outcome for a group of individuals. For this measure, you will provide the unique count of individuals served by a multidisciplinary team. To calculate this measure, you will divide the number of individuals served by a multidisciplinary team by the number of individuals served. This ends our review of some of the newly revised output measures. The next set of measures will focus on newly revised outcome measures meant to track long-term changes in behavior, individuals, and systems. Number of memorandums of agreements or understanding implemented. MOUs or MOAs are formal partnering or coordination agreements between entities. They're recognized once participants officially implement the MOU or MOA. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of number of MOAs or MOUs implemented. Percentage of eligible individuals detained. Detention refers to the placement of a youth in a facility under court authority at some point between the time of referral to court intake and case disposition. Detention prior to case disposition is known as predispositional detention. Detention after sentencing is post-dispositional detention. Post-dispositional detention includes awaiting placement or short-term sentencing to detention. Count individuals who received either type of detention. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals eligible for detention and the number of individuals detained of those eligible. Percentage of the individuals adjudicated for a delinquency offense. Adjudication is defined as the judgment a juvenile receives for the delinquency offense they are charged with. A delinquency offense is defined as an act committed by a juvenile that would be criminal if committed as an adult. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of individuals adjudicated for the first-time delinquency offense. Then the number of individuals adjudicated for a subsequent delinquency offense. You will calculate the percentage for the number of individuals adjudicated for a first-time delinquency offense and the number of individuals adjudicated for a subsequent delinquency offense and divide them by the number of individuals served. Percentage of eligible individuals adjudicated for a status offense. Adjudication is defined as a judgment a juvenile receives for a delinquency offense they are charged with. A status offense is an act that would not be committed by an adult. Some examples include curfew violations, consumption of alcohol or tobacco based on the individual's age and state and local statute, and running away. For this measure, you will first provide the distinct count of individuals adjudicated for a first-time status offense. then the number of individuals adjudicated for a subsequent status offense. You will calculate the percentage for the number of individuals adjudicated for a first-time offense and the number of individuals adjudicated for a subsequent status offense and divide them by the number of individuals served. Percentage of eligible individuals who completed high school. We define completed high school as individuals who received a diploma from a traditional or alternative high school or received their general education development or GED. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of individuals who received a high school diploma or a GED. Number of eligible individuals employed, full or part-time. Employment includes paid employment, a paid or unpaid internship, or participation in an apprenticeship program. 40 hours or more per week defines full-time, and 20 hours or less per week means part-time. This performance measure is calculated by dividing the number of eligible individuals employed by the number of individuals served. Percentage of eligible individuals represented by the same defense counsel throughout their justice system involvement. An individual represented by one lawyer during all stages of their case under the jurisdiction of the juvenile justice system is called vertical representation. For this measure, you will first provide the number of individuals represented by defense counsel at any point throughout their justice system involvement, which is line A, and then the number of individuals represented by the same defense counsel throughout their justice system involvement, which is line B. To calculate this measure, you will divide data point B by data point A. Percentage of eligible individuals represented by the same defense counsel throughout their justice system involvement. Horizontal representation is when an individual is represented by a lawyer at all stages of their case: law enforcement custody, initial hearing, detention hearing, arraignment, adjudicatory hearing, disposition hearing, pretrial, trial, appeal, and post-disposition when under the jurisdiction of the juvenile justice system. Count the number of individuals represented by a lawyer at all stages applicable to that individual's case and not the number of stages. For this measure, you will provide the number of individuals represented by defense counsel, which is line A, and then the number of individuals represented by defense counsel throughout their justice system involvement, which is line B. To calculate this measure, you will divide data point B by data point A. Now that we have reviewed all of the measures, I'm going to hand it back to Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Muniba. We have a short scenario for you. Brenda Sukup, a Juvenile Justice and Mental Health Collaboration awardee, has just received the newly updated performance measures, attended this learning event, and is sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sukup do to prepare for data collection in the July to December 2021 period, reporting in January of 2022? So she's just gone through her performance measures, and she's attended this training event, and she's ready to get started. What should she do to begin? Go ahead and post in chat. Catherine is posting, identify what stakeholders hold each data point, develop data sharing agreements as needed, and strategize methods for tracking. Yes, and that is what others have noted as well. In addition, she can familiarize herself with these measures more thoroughly, determine who is responsible for capturing and tracking data, who is responsible for reporting the data in January of 2022. Thank you, Catherine. Now, not only is Brenda getting started, but there's some information that Brenda needs to know about the reporting process. And we're going to cover that here momentarily in a few slides from now. But just briefly, Brenda needs to be aware that for those FY19 and prior grantees, they will continue to complete their reports in the PMT and submit them in JustGrants during the July through December submission period. All FY19 and prior grantees who can close out during the July submission period are encouraged to do so. And FY20 grantees will continue to report on and submit narrative questions in JustGrants during the July submission period. Okay, moving on then. We're going to talk about several best practices while collecting and tracking data. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation, as you know. When creating a data collection plan, some best practices often include locating the performance measures for your program, understanding what each question is asking, and determining how to answer that question, identifying those data points. And even if that answer is going to be a 0, identifying the type of data that is going to be in that response. Also, creating a plan to identify when and how to collect the data, and what type of tool or instrument will you use to collect the needed data. Has this tool or instrument that you're using been validated? Has it been used before? And how accurate is this tool or instrument? And also, who will collect the data using the tool or instrument? And that was creating a data collection plan. So next, we have several best practices that you can implement when collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle. They're listed here on the screen. We want to be proactive in your approach. You want to designate staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. You want to review the progress reporting questions before entering data. You want to ensure that designated staff participate in trainings. You want to pay attention to communication from JustGrants. And lastly, if applicable, you want to review, edit, and validate data with subgrantees before submission. Is there a grantee and subgrantee relationship? You are required to enter data on all performance measures that relate to activities described in your approved OJJDP grant application and carried out with OJJDP funding. As a grantee, you should plan to collect data on behalf of all of your subgrantees. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period, as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions that you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and document version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? For example, would you track them using an Excel spreadsheet? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if it is stored on a shared drive, who is given permissions? Lastly, how will changes be communicated? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? Next, let's look at several best practices during reporting. In January 2022 reporting cycle, you'll be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. The narrative questions provide you with an opportunity to answer or address the following topics. What do the numbers you report on in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? You want to use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric output to the tangible outcome. And you want to use specific and detailed, concrete examples to illustrate your point. Other things to think about, including in your narrative, could be providing evidence to support conclusions, answering the question, what has funding allowed you to do that you could not do prior to receiving funding, and could include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments. On your screen, yes, thank you. Let's discuss best practices for reporting in JustGrants. Common issues arise since you are required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a 0 value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description, such as "we are still in our planning period," or "there was no activity during the reporting cycle," are acceptable responses in JustGrants. Avoiding duplication and count can also be very challenging. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager at a site visit, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is awards-based. Another best practice for those of you with multiple awards when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down funds and create a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first, before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award, again, for those of you with multiple awards. You want to contact JustGrants with any concerns related to error messages found in JustGrants. You can save your data, and you can resume data entry at a later point in time in JustGrants. And for more information such as this, please visit the YouTube video using the link provided on the screen and in the chat. You may want to contact the PMT Helpdesk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. You are encouraged to reach out to your program manager with questions or concerns. As mentioned previously, some grantees may receive funding from other awards. A service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, work with OJJDP program managers to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. You'll be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 and January 2022. Discretionary award reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. More information regarding reporting in JustGrants will be forthcoming. If you are a 2019 and earlier grantee, please note that this training is not directed at you, but you are welcome to stay to learn more about the new measures. Regarding the 2020 and future grantees, even though JustGrants does not yet have the functionality to accept data for the new measures, these trainings are being conducted to ensure that you begin tracking data in support of the new measures. Doing so ensures that you can report on your program data once that system functionality becomes available. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, also known as PII, should be done with considerations towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasion of their privacy. In accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, you want to keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or similar locked enclosures. And when using sensitive PII, you want to keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate count for numerical progress report fields, because project partners do not have access to files, for example, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialist. So how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online, remote platforms, and when you've not been collecting detailed data on individuals served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer here is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will discuss various resources at your disposal and where to go for assistance. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where to find additional assistance. The PMC Helpdesk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact us by calling the number on the screen or emailing ojjdp@ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage Grant Award administrators to send us an email. The OJJDP PMC Helpdesk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PMC Helpdesk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. JustGrants support. If you have questions about the JustGrants system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with JustGrants, we strongly encourage Grant Award administrators to reach out to JustGrants support. JustGrants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in JustGrants, can be found on the ojjdp.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video available on the screen. You can also log into JustGrants at justgrants.usdoj.gov. Thanks. Now back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Muniba. Let's take a moment now and reflect on what was presented today. First, we discussed each of the program-specific juvenile justice and mental health collaboration performance measures, noting specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data needed. Next, we learned about best practices for planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data. An important takeaway, as already mentioned by Muniba, but I want to reiterate it here, is the fact that OJJDP does understand that planning takes time. We know that the data collection process has begun for organizations, agencies, and subawards, and that you need time to review, process, and create a data collection plan for these performance measures. Some indicators may be easier to collect than others, and we encourage you to work with your partners and TTA providers on a data collection plan. So, what is next? Next steps include the opportunity we all have to collect data that will inform change down the road. For our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You'll be receiving a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the PMC Helpdesk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with your feedback on these newly revised performance measures provides the information we need to fully understand what you need and those challenges that you may face implementing that particular measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now informs the refresh cycle after the one-year pilot period has occurred. For now, however, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And that concludes today's session.